Hi everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel as well as my craft room. I'm Shellie with JS Hobbies and Crafts, and I have another step-by-step mini album tutorial for you, and this one is labeled for beginners. All my albums are actually for beginners. These are step-by-step, start to finish. This one I labeled because it is a very easy design. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I have a lot of different tutorials, so don't get intimidated by what you see. Each one of them a beginner can make, and beginners are making my albums every day. So let's move on into the project overview, where we will look at what we'll be making today. Album overview. So this is an 8.5 by 6.5 mini album with a 3.5 inch spine, and I used the Couture Creations Seabreeze paper collection for this. So I am going to take you around. And we have this side. So here we are at page 1 and 2, and we just have a little front pocket there. And this is a very simple design, and you will learn how to make a basic pocket, side pockets, deeper pockets, all sorts of things in this album tutorial. Page 3 and 4. So what we have here is just a flip, and you can put a picture here if you want, and that just flips up, and that's magnetic, and it flips down. And down here we have a little belly band. You can slide in and out photo mats. And then also what we have is a side pocket, and it's a generous size one, so you can get in some 5x7, some really big picture mats in there. Page 4. This has a magnetic fold out, but first off what we have here is a pocket. And this flips out, and there's a space right here to plant a large photo. Over here is our side pocket, which holds quite a few mats, and it'll hold more than what I have in here. So page 5 and 6. So this is what we have, and up front we have the lighthouse, and you can tuck things back behind it. Picture whatever you'd like. And this folds out, and it's magnetic, and this is a free floating mat that I created, and the magnets will help hold that in there for you. Over here we have a pocket. Over here is another fold out, and another free floating pocket or picture mat, and another pocket. In this I did not use a die cutting machine. I kept it real simple with just like the EK Tools paper punch. Alright, these are the pockets we create, and they are the deep pockets, meaning I can get in a ton more photo mats in one pocket if I'd like. And I have a large 5x7 mat in there too, so these hold good size photos. Page 9 and 10, and what we have here is a magnetic band that opens, and here is our waterfall, and we can just keep flipping these. And the little band here helps keep it contained down. Over here what we have is we have two flips, and I have a free-floating mat behind there that's being held in by the magnet. The first one we'll flip is this one, and this is the one that actually holds this one down. So this flips out, and you can put a nice size photo there if you'd like. 2 photos, and then again this was just a free-floating picture mat. Our final page is real simple, and it's just to give you an area just to place a photo down here. And that is what we will be making today. Let's move on to our materials list. So the main ingredient is the paper, and this is by Couture Creations, and it's the Sea Breeze collection. And there we packaged them up to where you get 24 double-sided sheets, and there's 2 of each design. So I'm just going to flip and you can see. It's really pretty. I think this will be a perfect paper for us to work with. I'm going to be cutting my chipboard down to make my covers and spine, and so I have 2 pieces of the 12 by 12 medium weight black chipboard. You're going to need some Tyvek. Tyvek comes in like envelopes, and we just need a couple strips off this. It's a very durable material. I'm using the Coordinations Premium Cardstock. It is Black Cat, and it's 65 pound smooth texture. Bling on a row, and this is the single row. On my last tutorial I used these, and I have a bunch left over. These are the 49th and Market, the floral mixology, and this is called Pina Colada, and they're a white flower, and you get quite a bit in here. And I had used these on my 8 by 10 wedding album, and I'm going to use what I have left in this one, and I will be inking them to get different colors, and I'll show you the inks I'll be using shortly. I'm going to be using, instead of a whole bunch of different variety of flowers and dyes, I will be just using the trim paper punches in this tutorial. But I'm also using chipboard pieces by Blue Fern Studio that matches the theme of our beach summer theme. So I am using this chipboard piece, and it's called Seashell Frame. This is also by Blue Fern, and this chipboard pieces, they're called Anchors Away. Sail Away is this one. This one is By the Sea, and you also get a little lighthouse and a dolphin. Okay. These are the little seaside seashells. And then I have a large lighthouse. Now, you don't have to use all of the chipboard pieces that I'm using. You can just pick and choose, especially if you're on a tight budget. So, but I will be using all of these. You're going to want to get a package of these 3D Zots, or you may already have them. And I like these because they're the singles, and they're very strong. And you don't really have to get your hands on it. All you have to do is peel off one side, stick it, and no need to get fingers in it. So I will be using these to dimensionalize some of my stuff. For your side closure, you will want Dritz extra large hook and eyes, and I'm going to use the nickel plated. You can use the antique brass or the black brass on yours. It makes no difference. Either one will look good. These come in 3 sets per pack. You only need 1 set, so you'll have left over for another album or another project. Colorbox makes this ink. It's called Coastal, and that's the color that I use to get that flower. I think you can see it. I'm also going to be using Pistachio by Memento. I've got Memento's Rich Cocoa, Memento Toffee Crunch, and then this is Coral by color box. On my flowers, I'm going to be applying Wink of Stella, and all that does, it's just a pen, and it gives a little bit of a shimmer effect on my flowers. And then I'm going to also be applying the glossy accents. On my chipboard, I am going to be using some white paint. Any white craft paint will do. I'm just using the folk art, and I can't remember if this is, what is this one called? Wicker white. With my ink, I'm also going to be using my Dove Blender set, and it's just a pen. It helps me. I can dab into my colors here and then apply it right on the flower, or I can also use it on my chipboard pieces. And this just is the starter set. You get some extra tips, you get extra fluid if you want that, or you've got your pen. For adhesives, I am using score tape. This is the 1/4 inch, and there's 27 yards on this. You may need 1.5 of these. I'm also going to be using my glue, and this is the Art Glitter Dries Clear adhesive glue. There is no glitter in this, but this is going to be used also for my side closure, which is metal, and this works on metal, plastics, resins, paper. And if you get this, you'll definitely want to get the metal tip or some sort of tip to pop on top to control the flow of your glue, because you really don't need that much of it. And it saves us money in the long run when we're using that glue. Since I'm not die cutting anything in this particular album, I'm going to use my EK Tools deep edge and 1/2 inch punches. I'm going to use a variety to give me some variety throughout the album. This is a newer one we started carrying. This is called Polka Dots, and this is what you get for that. So I want to use that. This one is the deep edge. Deep edge means it's over an inch trim piece that we can produce. And this is embroidery. I'm also going to be using this one, and this is the scroll pattern. And that looks like this when it's done being punched. And then we have here, this is Flower Abstract, and this is what it looks like. And then we can also do things like this with that punch. I also have another 1/2 inch punch. It's called Scrolls and Hearts, and this is what we can produce. And then we can also do some fun trim pieces that look like this using that same punch. The last few things is you might want to have 3 or 4 flat back pearls. I have a few of these and then a smaller one. Magnets. You'll want about 12 magnets for this tutorial, and I'm using they're about 3/8 by 16th, and they're very strong magnets. Last thing is stickles, and this is the diamond stickles, and we will be accenting a lot of stuff in our album with this. Items that you're going to need are a scoring board, a paper cutter, pencil, ruler, scissors, and also I like to use a hot glue gun. Mine's a low temp so I don't burn myself, but for quick tacking of things. Let's get started and build our album. I've got my chipboard pieces here, and they're both 12 by 12 size. On each one, measure over 8.5 inches and cut. So what you have is 2 pieces of chipboard like this. One of these we don't need. We can put this in our stash for another project that we might need chipboard on. On both your chipboard pieces now, looking at it like this, because I like to stay consistent on which way I tell you to measure over. On both of your pieces like this, measure over 6.5 inches and cut. Now you're going to have 2 of these and the 2 smaller ones. On the 2 smaller ones, put that off for another project. So you'll have your cover and also your back cover. On this piece, measure over 8.5 inches and cut. Put this one in your stash for another project. So what we're ending up with is our front and back covers, and they are 6.5 inches by 8.5 inches. We have our middle spine piece, which is 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. Let's just set these off to the side for right now. Let's grab our Tyvek. Cut 2 pieces of Tyvek that are 1.5 inches wide by 8 inches tall. Grab your scoring board and place it down on 1.5 inches across the board at 3/4 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Let's score on each one. And then we will fold on our score line. And Tyvek can get away from you, so if your score isn't quite straight, that's okay, because we will straighten it up. Once you've done that, it makes it easy just to fold it right in half. And I'm just going to place these down where the peaks are up. Grab your score tape, and all we're going to do is lay a piece of score tape just to the right of that peak. Don't get your score tape on it. And then we're going to lay right on the edge. Careful not to go over the edge. And we're going to do that same thing to the left of the peak. Let's place a piece of score tape, and then on the left edge, careful not to go over the side. We're going to repeat that and do the same thing on this one. When you are done placing your Tyvek, it is important that you turn it over. If you can see any score tape peeking over the edge, let's just clip that right on off. Really quick, score tape is a double-sided adhesive, and it's almost impossible for me not to get my fingers on the adhesive part. The more I place my finger there, the less potent it becomes. One rule of thumb that I have is before I even start working with it, I wash my hands with soap and water, dry them off really good to get any oils off my skin or any lotions. That is one tip for using score tape. It's very strong, it does its job, but we do need to make sure the oils are off our skin. Grab your spine piece and get your ruler and pencil out. From the bottom of your piece, measure up, I would say about 1/4 of an inch, and make a pencil mark, and do it over here as well. That is going to be our guide to where we need to place our hinge. Okay, so I got my pencil marks, and a craft knife comes in very handy to get the backing off your score tape. You'll only remove one side of that backing off the score tape, and I'm going to pinch it like so. The peak is heading this way because I'm going to place it down here. So I'm going to bring it all the way to the edge right here, right on that little pencil mark, and I'll press down here to hold it. I want to keep that straight, and I'm just going to bring it up right along the edge there. Then I can open it up and smooth it out. If you get any wrinkles, it doesn't matter because we are going to have covers over these hinges, and it won't hurt anything. Okay, this side, we're going to remove only one side of the score tape backing, and we're going to do the same thing we just did with the peak heading this way now. Now everybody makes their albums their own way. This is a way that I do. I found it's very simple and easy, and it holds together. It does its job. So you may have viewed several other people's tutorials and they build their album differently. And there is no right and wrong way. It's just according to my taste on how I've been successful at making these albums, where they're easy to construct, easy to assemble, and they last. So, okay, so we have that like this. Grab one side and let's observe. If you have a rough edge, the rough edge is going to be butted up right against that spine. There is no spacing in this. So with that being said, I'm going to remove the score tape here, the backing off one side. And again, I'm going to make sure this is flush. Push right up against the edge, no spacing. Make sure my top and my bottom is even with my spine. And then I'm just going to press it over and smooth it out. You will still be able to open and close. Let's do it on this side. I'm going to inspect. My edges are okay, but the roughest side I would put in towards the middle there. So remove the backing, place it up so it's even, and push it over. So that's what you should have. Cut 2 pieces of cardstock that are 2 inches wide by 8 1/4 inches tall. Grab your scoreboard. Let's place these down. We're 2 inches across the board. At 1 inch, we're going to score. And we'll do it the same on the other at the 1 inch mark. Score. And then let's just fold on our score lines. Okay, I have my 2 and the peak is up on our spine here. At the edge, it would be most helpful here. When you open it up, you can see where the edge of your spine is. But take your ruler and let's measure up from the bottom 1/8 of an inch. Make a score line or make a pencil mark, and we'll do it on the other side of the spine piece as well. Okay, though that is my marker for when I do get ready to place this, where I know where I need to start. We're going to do the same thing we did with the Tyvek strips. Again, the peak is up. Lay your first piece just to the right of the peak. Careful not to get your score tape on there. And I'm going to place one at the edge, right edge. And then I'm going to place one right down the middle on this. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now I'm to the left of the peak. I'm going to place my score tape, go to the edge, and then one down the middle. Okay, so this is what I have. Now I'm going to flip it over. If I have score tape peeking over the edge, I'm going to make sure that I clip it off. We're going to do the same thing on this one. So let's do that. So I have my album. We are ready to place our first hinge. We got our pencil marks. I'm going to remove one side of the score tape like we did before. The peak is this way. And I'll place it right there. And bring it on up. Now all I have to do is remove the backing off this side and smooth it over. And you'll have a nice opening and shutting. Okay, this side we're going to do the same thing. Remove one side. Whoops, that got crazy. And my peak is heading this way. Place it down on my pencil mark there, like so. Make sure you smooth that down. And you should still be able to open and close. Okay, let's set this off to the side. Let's get our inner pages ready to go. Cut 5 pieces of black cardstock that is 8 1/4 inches tall by 6 7/8 inch wide. Once you do that, place your piece on your scoring board, and you are 6 7/8 inch across the board at 6 1/4 score. And we will do that on each one of our sheets. We're 6 7/8 across, 6 1/4 score. So go ahead and do that on all your sheets, and then fold on your score line. Okay, on each one of our sheets, and I have the peak up, over here we're going to lay 2 pieces of score tape. We're going to go just to the right side of that peak. We don't want to get any score tape on it. We're just going to run it down there. We'll run one just on the right hand edge, making sure we don't go over. And we'll be doing this for each one. Now it's very important you flip it over. If you can see any score tape peeking over the edge, you'll want to clip it. So let's get all of our pages ready to go. Okay, we are ready to place these. I've got mine all ready. We are going to trim down this first one just a hair. Here is my peak, so this is my flap. Over here, just trim off maybe a 1/16 or actually an 1/8 of an inch off here. Just slice that. If you need to use your ruler to mark 1/8 inch in, do so. So it's only on one that we did a little trimming. So what we're going to do now, the rest we're going to leave alone, by the way. Before I take off the score tape, I think I'm going to make this easier by showing you what we're about to do. Our first one, the one that we trimmed, what we're going to do is, you see where your score line is there? And you see where our hinge cover is that we placed the black here? This bottom piece is, right at the bottom is our guide, so we know where to place this as far as how far down. We're just going to bring this edge right up to where we can still see that score line that separates, so that this is sitting right on the edge. It is covering the hinge cover here on this side, and that will put us exactly where we need to do. We'll have enough spacing here and spacing down here. So let me do this really quick. Remove the backing. This is just a very simple way. I'm going to zoom in if I can here. Let's see. Maybe bring it out just a little bit. Okay, this is where my score line is. That is my hinge cover. Down here, I'm going to bring it down to where my hinge cover is, so it lays right up on top. And I can still see my score line. So I'm just going to press it here. Now this is the part where you are going to want to bring it up evenly. So you're going straight on up, and then you just press. Okay? And then when you fold over, you should have your hinge in, and it is the same as your hinge cover. Once you have it in place, the next thing is real easy how these fall in line together. I'm going to remove my score tape. I am going to just bring this edge right to the edge of this one, making sure it's even top and bottom and straight, and I'll place it. And we'll just keep going along with the rest of our pages like that. I'm just going to do this, and you can watch and see what I'm doing. I'm going to try and keep my head out of the video. It's not always easy for me to reach around, so actually I'm going to turn my book. That way I can line it up. The top the bottom and it presses right against the other, and then you smooth it down. And you can fold it over. And we'll go back and re-smooth down. I'm going to start attaching my pages here. And they're all just the same. Whoops. Hello. Get my fingers out of that. Okay, the top and the bottom. Bringing it right up against there. And placing it. And as you can see, you've got some even spacing. Looks good. And it might even be easier for you to turn yours like this. I just have to try and keep my head out of the video because I'm short and I need to see over what I'm doing here. All right. And my last one. Okay, next one. All right, so let's open this back up. Use our fingers here to make sure that hinge is down. And that looks good to me. And this is what yours should look like. I just had to shut the blinds. I think there was too much light coming in, but I think you can see how yours should look. Okay, let's set this off to the side. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. And if you notice, on one side is the trim, which we're going to be cutting off. We're not going to throw that away because, as you can see, the other side can be helpful if we need some trim throughout the tutorial. So the first thing that we're going to do is trim off this top piece. So this is where we're at, and on this side. So what we're going to do, and this is my little speech I say in every tutorial, is all the pieces that we cut off that we don't need, we're going to be sticking them into a scrap pile. I call them a reserve pile. So all decorative paper, I will be saying, for instance, put this in your reserve pile. This does not go in the same place as all your papers that have not been touched. It's a way of me keeping things organized while I'm doing the tutorial, so it's easy for us to find what we're looking for. Also, what we will be doing is, when you were cutting your inner pages on cardstock, you should have some cuttings left over. This is also going into reserves in a second pile, so it'll be easy for us to identify each reserve pile. So this is what we have. We have where we're looking at it. Summer is going down the sheet. Measure over 6 inches and cut. The side that has summer on it, stick in your reserves. Now, because I like to stay consistent on which way I'm telling you to measure over, turn your sheet so it's looking like this. Measure over 8 3/8 of an inch and cut. This is what you should have. Stick this in our reserves. This is going to be our spine cover, and we're going to grab our scoring board out, and we're not going to score real hard. Let's flip that right on over. We are 6 inches across. We're going to score lightly at 1 1/4 inches. Let's just score real lightly. Now when we fold, we're not going to fold to crease. We're just going to kind of give this a bend. And I'll show you what we're after to get. If you grab your album and hold it to where you have your side straight out there, the crease should be right at the edge of your album. Okay? If you were to hold this like so. Put your thumb here to hold it, kind of keep it there in place. Smooth it over and just give a small little pinch at the corner over here where it's supposed to wrap around. Now what you can do is where you pinched, you can lay this down and score lightly on that pinch mark. And you can bend this up a little. Okay? And that's going to help you to keep your sides, when we wrap it, straight. So let's see how this worked out. If we were to place this right on there, is it going to fit and wrap around? And mine does. Okay. So we know where those lines are supposed to be. We can see them, and they're even. Let's grab our score tape. So when placing this, I like to look at them as if we're looking at 3 panels. Here's a panel, and here's a panel. Do not get your score tape on the creases here. So let's start with this side. I'm going to place it at the top and on the edge, careful not to go over with my score tape. And I'm just going to wrap this, and you can cut it off at the bottom here, but I'm just going to wrap mine. Careful not to get it on that score line. So there's my first panel. Again, if you want to just lay one, cut it off, lay another one, cut it, and go around that way, you can do that. And I'm going to lay one right in the middle. Okay? The next one is the middle panel. Again, I'm going to make sure I don't get on that crease. Just go around, and I'm going to do the same thing on this. I'm going to go around like a picture frame, and then I'll put one down the middle and one on either side of that. So this is what yours should look like. Now for this one, we're going to do the same thing we just did on the first little panel. Got mine on, so I'm going to make sure my score tape is down really good. So when I do this, I like to just remove one panel. The first one gets removed only, and I leave these alone. So I'm going to remove the backing here, trying to keep my fingers out of it as best I can. Okay, so you have your crease back here. I'm going to put my album out here so you can see. I have it like that, and I'm going to hold it down with my hand. The back panel that has that score tape on, I'm just going to hook that. And it's going to be laid so that I still can see a little bit of black at the top and bottom. Okay, once I see that I have it where it's supposed to be, I'm just going to hold it with my finger so it doesn't get away from me here. I'm going to smooth it over, and I'm just going to push and smooth up and smooth down, just like that. So as you can see, I still have a little bit of black. If you get it a little bit off, chances are you will not be able to see the crooked part of that. So okay, so this is what we have. I'm just going to flip that over. Now the last part here is where you can actually just take all the score tape backing off. So let's do that. Okay, so I have my backing off here. It's ready to go. All I'm going to do is take my hand, and it's right in the middle here, and I'm going to push it over. And then I'm going to smooth up and smooth down. So I get that down. And we will smooth it further. So now all I have to do is take my hand in the middle, smooth it over the spine, and push on the back. And then I can smooth it up and smooth it down. So don't try to open your album just yet. We'll do that together. Okay, I'm going to grab my album from in the inside, and I'm going to carefully place it down like so. What I like to do is put my nails together and just run it down that seam. Make sure that score tape gets down. trying to keep it straight. Okay. Once you know that you've got your score tape down, this is where you carefully bend it back. Okay. And that's what you should have. Okay. So we are ready. You should be able to open and close, no problem. And we are ready to lay our piece for up here. So I'm going to grab our paper and that we'll be using. Really quick, before I go and start grabbing paper, if you are crooked on this part or in your back area, don't worry, because we do have a piece of paper that's going to lay over this, and then this piece here is going to be hidden. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. The first thing we want to do is trim off this trim piece, and then we'll put that in our reserves. Okay, so we're going to want to stay together as a group here on our cuts for sure. The first thing that we're going to do is trim off this trim piece around this picture here, this print. So what I'm going to bring this up, I am going to cut. Do you see right here where it's blue and then we have the yellowish color border? We're going to cut right on that line there, all the way down. So that will be our first cut. So this is what you should have. The next thing that we're going to do is the same thing. We're just going to trim that right on that same point, that same line, straight down. And then after we're done trimming that, we're going to turn it. We're going to trim this way. We'll turn it and we will trim this way. So this is what you should have at this point. Set this off to the side. We will be getting into this again. Alrighty. So I have the longest piece here. As you can see, you have 3 that would be, actually, you're going to have, you're going to have 1 really long, then you'll have 2 that are the same size, and then a shorter one. We're going to take the longest one. Looking at your piece like this, measure over 8 3/8 of an inch and cut. This is what you should have. This small piece stick in your reserves. And we'll just stick this one off to the right hand side. Grab your next longest piece. Looking at it like this, measure over 8 3/8 inch and cut. This is what you should have. This little piece goes in our reserves. We will stick that right down like so. Now on these 2, we're going to make sure that they are the same. One will be longer than the other. Measure over 6 3/8 of an inch and cut. The 2 smaller pieces stick in your reserves. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do with this is we're going to lay the smaller pieces first. And when we lay this down, we're going to leave ourselves a black border down here, a little black border on the side. So what's going to happen is when we place this one on top, like so, it will leave us a black border up here too. Okay, so first thing we're going to do one thing at a time. We're going to place the bottom one and the top one first. For this, you can use your glue. We'll just apply it, bring it down, make sure we are even. You definitely don't want to be crooked. And you can make sure you're even because the top of your piece that wraps over and the bottom, so when you lay this, it should lay right on that same edge to keep you straight. So it'll look like that. Okay, let's get the top one and we'll do the same thing. And And the reason why I wanted you to use glue on this instead of score tape is in case you need to move it up or down to line up with where you should be here. And you should have the same amount of gap here as here, or the not gap, same amount of black cardstock showing. Just make sure you get that down. And we'll do the same thing on this one, applying our glue. Oops. And placing it. Now when placing it over to the left, you should only be able to see what you need to see. So if you were a little crooked over there, just bring it to even up what you can see on the piece that folds under. That would be my best advice if you got on crooked. And just make sure that's down really good. So this is what we should all have so far. Okay, set this off to the side. We're going to grab this back out, measure over 5.5 inches, and cut. All right, we need to get a piece off this, and what it is right here where we see that border, we are going to cut from here where it meets the blue all the way down, and I'll show you what mine looks like. So I have a very narrow strip and I want that, and I'm going to set that off to the side. Put this in your reserves. We're going to look at our paper like this. Measure over 7.25 inches and cut. This is your piece that you should have. I have my seashells where I'm looking at it. It's up here. We need that little trim frame piece. So let's cut from here on down. Okay, I'm going to set that with my other one. This can go back in my reserves. How I'm going to do this is, if you notice, we already have our border on the sides here. We're going to end up centering this. We're going to place the longest one on the side, and we will measure that to fit in just a moment, and we'll cut it down. And then this one, the smaller one, will go across the bottom. So first things first, let's flip this over and apply our score tape. So because I don't have a ton of heavy embellishments that are going to go on the cover, I did put score tape around the edges, one down the middle, and then I'm going to use my glue to come inside here. And I think we'll be okay with that, and that will help us conserve a little bit of our score tape. So I'm going to remove the backing here, and I'm going to center this on my page. As best I can. The reason why I wanted to use score tape around the edges is to make sure that it stays down. So just do the best you can here, keeping it as straight as you can. And remember, we have the side things to help straighten us up just in case we need to. So I'm going to press that all down really good, make sure my glue sticks. And I'll just keep my album open. This piece goes right here, and I'm just going to trim that to fit. I'll apply my glue and place this down. Again, if you got yours on crooked, this is the perfect time to use your trim to cover up any crooked edges. Okay, I have this one. And it does have a little bit of the seashell down here still showing, but that's quite okay. This one is a perfect fit. No trimming needed. Apply my glue. Perfect. So before we do anything else to the cover, let's get the paper for the back cover here. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it's this beautiful blue, which that is what we're going to use for the back. Let's first trim off this top piece. Put your trim piece in your reserves. Now, because I want to make sure we have the same leftover, pieces, we're going to look at our paper like this when cutting. We're going to turn our sheet so we're looking at it upside down. The ship's wheel should be up in the left-hand corner. Measure over 6 3/8 of an inch and cut. This piece over here, put in your reserves. Alrighty, now looking at your sheet like this, measure over 8 3/8 of an inch and cut. This piece will go in our reserves, and this is what we should have. If you look at, make sure that when you're placing this, you don't place the seashells upside down. So a good rule of thumb is to always look at your cover and then just flip it over like so. Always check, because I've done it. I've done it to where I've actually, my inner pages ended up upside down by the time I was taking pictures a long time ago, and my cover was upside down from what was inside. So definitely don't want to go through what I went through trying to fix that thing. Okay, so we're going to be placing like this. So we still have a black border here, 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 and you'll be able to see a little bit over here, and we will be putting a trim piece there. Okay, I have glue. Now when you're going, when you're looking at it like this, it's going to place down. On this side over here, make sure you get enough glue under here. As a matter of fact, let's just use our score tape because of our drits. We don't want any lifting. Okay, just make sure that you apply your glue pretty good in here so no paper lifts away from your album. And now it's time to place our piece. So I'm going to watch where my bottom part of this is. That will make my life easier in placing this. And I'm just going to open that up and make sure this is down really good. So I want to put a trim piece right here. So let me find that for us. The trim piece I want is back here. So in your paper pack you will see this piece. On the back it looks like this. Let's trim off that trim piece. Okay, now since we haven't actually cut into this 12 by 12 piece, put this back with your other sheet in your paper pack. And all we're going to do here, looking at this, is measure over 8 3/8 of an inch and cut, or what you could do is place it down, measure it to fit, and cut. And let's apply our glue to the trim piece. And then we are going to, and I like to look at mine like this where I can still see the edge. And then I'll glue mine down just like that. Okay, I've got mine down. Let's grab one side of our drit side closure. So what you're going to actually glue down right now is the one that is flat, this one. This one we'll just use to measure up. I do want to prop this up so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to grab one of my things here, put that right like this. Now, if you have a binder clip or a clamp, either or will work. We're going to apply glue, and again this will work on metal, this glue. And we're just going to put some right here. and it dries clear. So I'm going to place this somewhere in the middle, like so. Now for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hook that on, so make sure I have enough room to get this in and out. Because once I clamp this, it's going to glue down, and you'll have to tear it off in order to maneuver it again. So I'll leave that clamped for a moment. This other side, I'm just going to put right back in my pack so I don't lose it. We actually installed this at the very last of the tutorial after everything is done inside. So right now I am going to move this off to the side. Grab your frame out of the seashell frame. Then you're going to have a chipboard set. That is the By the Sea. Grab the By the Sea, grab the lighthouse. These can all go right back in the package. You're definitely going to want a scratch piece of paper, and I think I'll just use this. And we're going to get our white craft paint out, and we are going to paint this. Okay, for the By the Sea one that we painted white, we're actually going to create this color, which is very beautiful. If you have a dingy white color on this, put another coat on it. So how to create this, I am using the Color Box Coastal and the Memento Pistachio. For this application, I'm just going to use my daubers. Okay, I'm first working with the blue, the Coastal, and I'm just going to go around the edges here and daub on some darker in some places. You don't have to be precise on this, getting it all the way, just get some darker edges on certain areas, wherever you'd like. Okay, the next thing is just blot off some, and here and there, just kind of lightly put some of that ink on here, and we can always add more blue later. Okay, so this is what mine looks like. I've got it daubed on here and there. Next, let's get into our pistachio. And we're just going to brush on in certain areas. And I am going to, I'm pretty much just getting the parts where it's like white still. And I am going to be applying more blue to get a more vibrant blue in there, I think. And we're just going to play around with it a little bit, you know. A little more blue in places, so you can go as blue as you want, or lighter. We'll go back over it with some of our green in places again. Okay, let's allow our ink to dry before we add any glossy accents to it. But this is what yours should look like. So I'm going to show you what I did here on the little lighthouse. What I did was I took my Toffee Crunch and my dauber, and I just lightly daubed here and there on it. Then what I did was I took my Dove blender, I put a tip in there, and I dipped it into the rich cocoa, and I just kind of went at the top and then just swiped across. Just like this. So this is what you will end up with, and I think you can see that maybe. I can't tell if you can see. Let's see if you can see it now. I think you can see what I did there. Okay, I applied my glossy accents to this, and it's dry now. And now what I want to do is grab my bling, and I am just going to glue this around like a circle around this. I've got mine glued down. I'm going to set this off to the side, and we're going to get into our paper pack, And in your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. Looking at your paper like this, let's trim all the way down, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, I got mine cut. Put this in reserves. Now, on this first one, Let Your Dream Set Sail, let's cut that to divide this. Put this in our reserves. Now, let's cut around this sentiment. Once you have it cut out, let's grab our rich cocoa and ink around those edges. In your reserves, grab a piece of scrap black cardstock, apply glue, and glue it down and leave yourself about 1/16 of an inch of black showing on your sides, and then we will cut around this, leaving about 1/16 of black cardstock showing. It's to frame it. I got mine done. We'll just set that off to the side. So we're almost done getting everything that we need for the cover. The flowers. Let's talk about those. Now, like I said, I was using that packet of leftover flowers from the 49th and Market brand, and you will need 3 of the white flowers. For the greens, what you will need is, with using the pistachio, is what you'll want to do is daub on your green onto the medium size and 2 of your smaller ones. You will apply Wink of Stella on them, and then a coat of your glossy accents. At least that's what I did there. You will want 4 of these really, I've got 2 of the really small, and then there's 2 of the other small. All I did there was just daub on the coastal color or the greeny blue color that I'm using, so those are easy. Now, if you notice, there is a difference in colors on how I got this and this. So I'm going to show you. It's really simple. I have a white flower here, and all we're going to do is go around the edges dark with our blue or our coastal color. Once I did that, I just went around like so. Okay. I then just started lightly daubing some of this blue color onto the leaves itself. And you don't have to cover the whole thing, because we do have to daub on pistachio with that. So just get your flower ready to go. Sometimes it's easier just to lay your flower down. Okay, pistachio. And you may have to pull back your petals to just swipe some of that green. So once I did that, I went and I applied my Wink of Stella to this. If this is too green for you, because no 2 flowers are the same, but they're close, you can add more blue. So we'll apply our Wink of Stella, and then our glossy accents goes on top of that, and we will allow it to dry. So that's how I achieved that. And on this one, the smaller one, it's the same thing. Just kind of hit your edges. And I went a little lighter on this, I think, this one. And then your pistachio to get that different color. And then Wink of Stella goes on the petals. And I used a glossy accents over these. Let's put this together. The first thing we want to do is grab our frame. At the bottom of this and in the corner, let's just start off by putting a little glue there. We're going to slip this inside, like so. Push it over to the right as best you can, like that. So when we lay it down, this is going to be pretty straight there. So once you have that, then we're going to apply glue to the back of this, and then we will center it. So let me get my glue on. Got my glue around here and some on the back of there. And I'm going to center this the best I can. And this is going to pop up a little bit there. The next thing is our lighthouse. Now the reason why we went over it with the toffee crunch and a little bit of the rich cocoa is to separate the bright white from this. So let's add some glue to this. And we are going to place that right along the side here. And right up in here is where the tip of this should come. And we'll allow that to dry here in a moment. Okay, I'm going to use my hot glue gun for my first flower, and that will help to keep that down. So I'm going to add some glue right there in the center. And that one goes right here. Okay, the by the sea. We're going to apply glue, and be careful, I know mine is really fragile over here because there's only a little bit, but I'm going to apply glue to the back of this, and I am going to place this. The bee, the top of the bee will come just a little underneath sail, okay? And then we will press that down. Let's get this flower here. Apply my hot glue and glue it down. You're going to want to make sure that you push down over here so that that grabs, and because it's a fragile little piece over here of the chipboard, you'll want it to grab the paper over here. And then you can clean up any glue that squirts out. That way if it catches, it doesn't rip our piece off. Okay, I am grabbing one of these. I'm going to stick that right there. If you have any flat back pearls, apply some glue, and we'll just stick that right there at the top. Allow that to dry. I've got a white one. Just stick that right there. I have this one. This is the mix with the blue and the green. I'm going to put that right here. One of the petals underneath the edge there. Let's grab a green one. We'll stick that right here. The white one right here. One of our blue ones right there. I've got one of my blue ones. Stick that right here. Green here. And a white right up here. My last blue one, I'm going to stick right at the corner over here. Let's take one more white one and stick it right there. And I think I want to add one more mix, smaller one with the blue and the green for this. And I'm just going to stick that right there. And I think that looks really nice. In your Sail Away pack, you will find the anchor. And we're going to do kind of like that mixture look. And we're not going to paint it white first. We're actually just going to go right over the chipboard here. And go a little bit dark on those edges, like so. Grab pistachio and add some of our color. Okay. Whoops. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of my Wink of Stella. And I'm going to apply some glossy accents to it. Okay, I'm going to allow that to dry. Open up your book like this, spread your pages out so they don't crumple, apply your glue, and place your piece. So grab your diamond stickles and start applying it to some of the petals. I outlined the by the sea. I added the stickles around here, my lighthouse, and I'm going to move on and add it on my anchor just a little bit here. All right, that is going to need to dry. The next thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to do this while mine is drying, is we're going to cut a piece of bling. And you see this little trim that we put around here? We're only going to cut what we need. So I'm going to glue my bling down right on top of that little frame. When I get down in here, because I can't get under my C, we are going to cut it to fit. So we'll cut a piece, clip it, and we'll move on. And that'll save us a little bit on bling. And I definitely did not want to have this part up because I have it up here. If I had placed the bling first, everything would be up, and I do need to have this words, the C, and over here I definitely need it glued down to the paper so that less chances of our by the sea being destroyed if it's caught on anything. So let's get to work on that. I've got all my bling, all my stickles, and I did do some dots down the side with stickles. I'll bring it up. I'm going to let this dry really quick. If you like the glue and if you're using this and stuff, we do have the glue tip pins that are the stainless steel, and it comes in a pack. And there's also 6 nodgers you can use to clean up any of the glue that has seeped out. But you get about 6 of the pins in here, and I've already used mine because I lose mine all the time. I have one out right here, and you can just stick them in there, and it helps to prevent any rust that might accumulate inside that tip. So that is something. Also, while my thing is drying here before we move into page 1, the scroll pattern deeper edge EK Tools punch, I just got word that it's being discontinued. I do have a few in my shop, so you may want, if you want this, you may want to hop on that because I can't get any more of those. Mine is dry, and I am moving on to the inside of the album. We're on page 1. Now, how I number these are like when we're reading a paperback book. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, and so on. And that way, if you ever have to go back, if you pause it and you come back, you know what page you're on by looking at your album. So we are on this page. Let's set our book off to the side and find our paper. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. Let's trim off that top piece, and then we'll put that little trimming in our reserves. So I try to stay consistent on how I tell you to measure over. So looking at your page like this, let's turn it so we're looking at it sideways. Measure over 8 inches and cut. Stick this in your reserves, the smaller piece for now. Now we're going to look at it like so, normally. Measure over 6 inches and cut. So this is what we should have right now. This piece here, I'm not going to put in my reserves so I don't accidentally cut into it. I'm just going to set this off to the side for page 2. And we're going to work with this for our page 1. Look in your reserves. All of us may have cut our black cardstock in the beginning differently. If you do not have a piece that is 4 1/8 inch by 8 1/4 inch, go ahead and cut a piece or cut down a piece that you might have in your reserves to make that size. I am using the deeper edge scroll pattern punch, and what we're going to do is we're going to punch along the long side. And what's nice about these punches, and like Martha Stewart and so many other ones, is that once you have placed and you punched once, you can move it over until your piece lines up with the scroll pattern off to the side, so that you can cut and make sure that your piece fits together. So I'm going to line up over here like so. Okay, let's set this off to the side for a moment. In your reserves, you should have this print on the back. It's this, and this is what we want. Measure over 6 inches and cut. A smaller piece, let's put in our reserves. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to make a pocket, and the pocket is going to go like so, and what we're going to end up doing is wrapping around the flap to the back and tacking it down so that we have a nice pocket here. However, what we want to do is punch this, but sometimes if we start here and punch, it's not going to line up with this. So this is what I suggest you do, is place this in here so that you know where you are, is slide that right in there. I'm looking to make sure I have about the even amount of black flap on each side so that I can make sure that when I start punching, I'm going to line up with what's underneath. So I look like I have even amounts. Great. I know where this needs to sit, and then I'm just going to pull this out. Now I'm going to start punching. So now what's going to happen is when we lay this over, and we're going to just drag that down a little teeny bit so you can still see an outline barely of the black. And we're going to apply glue to the back of this, and we are going to mount it. I've got mine placed. So let's grab our score tape. I'm going to pinch off this because it's got on something and it won't have the potency. So we're just going to lay a piece of score tape at the bottom, and make sure you press that score tape down really good. I'm going to lift the backing off. Now this is where I like to give this just a little bit of a bend, and then we're just going to line up our sides with the side of our paper. Not too much, otherwise you're going to have a gap. I start from the middle and press out with, and I do it kind of firm, so you will see your page will kind of pop out up here, and that will just give you a little bit more room. And then in the tutorial we'll be doing another style pocket that gives you even more room. So this is where I like to get my hot glue gun, and my glue stick ran away from me. And I just use the glue gun, hot glue gun, for quick tacking. Be careful not to get your hands in it if you are not using a low temp. Low temp still hurts, but it won't blister you. At least mine won't. So now we have our pocket. Grab this back out of your reserves. It's the trim piece we just put in. Measure over 6 inches and cut. Put this piece in your reserves, and let's apply glue to the back and glue that right underneath our trim there. In your chipboard set, you will see the little ocean waves, and I am using my coral, and all I'm going to do is just color it in with my ink. I've got a couple flowers, and they were kind of done in the same way that I did the blue. I went on the edges with the coral dark, and then I blotted off and then put some color inside a little bit. Then I put my Wink of Stella, I let it dry, and then my glossy accents over it. So I did make those. So this is what yours is going to look like. It's not going to look beautiful to start. Once we put this all together, it will look good. So I don't have any Wink of Stella on it. I want it to be a matted color. So I'm going to apply my glue, and I'm going to glue that down right like this. Now when you apply your glue, just do the bottom part, leaving the waves at the top with no glue. That way you can slide something back behind still. So, in your paper pack, or actually this is in reserves, excuse me, you will find this sheet in your reserves. On the back it's yellow printed, and then we have these smaller little sentiment, these little cards. So what we're going to do is just stick this on our paper cutter, and we are going to cut right down, and I'm going to be doing mine right underneath this little yellow band, and I'll show you what mine looks like. So this is where I cut mine. As you can see, put this in reserves. Now what you're going to do is cut this first one off in between, like I've done. Now this I'm going to put back in my reserves. And for this, what I'm going to do is cut around it. And I'll show you mine when I'm done cutting mine. This is what mine looks like, and this is how I cut out those little things there. And I'm going to take my rich cocoa, and I'm going to ink around my edges. So let's do that. Grab a piece of scrap cardstock from your reserves. Let's apply glue to this, and we are going to glue that down. And leave yourself a little bit of black. Instead of moving it all the way to the top, bring it down just a little bit, because you'll probably want to leave a little bit of a black border around to really make this pop. I've got mine on, so now all I'm going to do is do the same thing, is to cut this out. The black is going to serve two purposes. It's going to strengthen up this little sentiment, as well as provide a black border around it to help it pop out. So I'm going to start cutting out and around mine, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. This is what mine looks like, and I'm going to apply some glue right at the bottom, and I'm going to stick this right on top of that, and you'll want to be able to catch one of these little spindles onto the little wave to help that. So now what we got is something that we can slide. Let me find something. We can still slide back behind here, and we can also tuck it back behind the waves. All right, the little flowers. Okay, I'm going to add a little glue. I'm using the hot glue for this because it's quick tacking. And I am covering up part of that, but that's okay. We're just going to stick this right like that. Okay, chipboard pieces. You will find the ship's wheel, and I've already colored mine with the rich cocoa, and I think it came out of the pack with a sail away. So all I did was just go right along this, like so. And then I just kind of used my dauber to get in the middle. So let's apply glue to just a little bit here, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to stick this so you know exactly where to put the glue. As you notice, I only put glue right through here, and I'm going to stick that, and it's going to stick to this and your wave. It will not stick back behind. So it's kind of a layering technique. And then once you have those three down, you can add a little bit of glue behind the other one. And that's what our page should look like. So page 1 is complete. One thing though with page 1, we will not be mounting that until we complete page 2. Have page 2 mounted first, then we'll come back and mount page 1. It's easier to line up with placing down page 2 first to line up your top and bottom, because the inner chipboard cover is slightly larger than our inner pages. Okay, so what we want to do is flip this over. We're going to apply score tape to get this all ready to go. And we're just going to line our score tape around the outside edges all the way around like a picture frame. Do not get your score tape on the outside of those edges because it will show on your page, and it may catch another page to stick. So I'm going to go around like so, and you can just tear it off and move, go around this way. But what I'm trying to say is if you do get something over, see I'm overhanging, definitely clip that off. So we have the score tape around the back like a picture frame. We're going to go one down the middle, and I think we're just going to go straight down here and here, and we won't have any buckling, and that should be good. So we'll set this off to the side. We're on page 2, and we set this page off to the side. So we have that. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 2 inches by 10 inches. And once we do that, what we're going to do is you'll want to use the same punch, large deep edge punch that you used on page 1. And we are going to punch along the long side. So this is what we should have. We're going to set this down. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these sheets. On the back, it's the blue polka dots. Let's first trim off this top trim piece. So I got my trim piece cut off. I put it in my reserves. Let's turn our sheet so we're looking at it like this. Measure over 2 inches and cut. Alrighty, put this in your reserves. And we're going to flip this over. Measure over 8 inches and cut. The small piece we're going to stick in our reserves. And we are going to do the same thing we did before, is to stick this in here and try to find our middle points. So you'll line up your scroll work with your punch, stick this in here so that you have the same amount of black for our flaps, because this is going to be a side pocket. So once you have it and you know you're lined up, you can then remove that and start punching. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap cardstock here. All I have left to do is apply glue to this, find where it goes, and again I'm going to just offset it just a little bit so I can see a little bit of that black outlining, and I will mount that, glue that down together. Okay, got mine down, and on the right hand side I am going to place my score tape. Press it down really good. Remove the backing. And I'm going to turn this so that I don't get my head in the video, and just line that up here. Now I can flip it over and just tack down my flaps. And then you have a pocket on the side to slide things in and out. In your reserves, you should have the other side to this that we had used on the previous page. All we're going to do is apply glue, and we are going to place that centered top to bottom right here. If you don't get yours centered exactly, it's not the end of the world. It's really not going to ruin your page. Alright, I'm in the Anchors Away, and there is this long piece right here. And sometimes you'll still get some of those little chipboard pieces in there. I'm keeping mine because in one of my other chipboard packs there was the sailboat I want to just show you things that you can do. In the, I think it was the Sail Away one pack, you'll see the boat, but there was also this ring, and mine still had some of the little round chipboard pieces in there. If you have any of those are kind of fun sometimes, because what I'm going to end up doing later on here is actually putting these little round things right on that boat going across, so you can see that it gives a little more dimension. So that's just heads up what I will be doing, so you'll want to save some of your stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is I'm going to take my coral and I'm going to ink this all the way up from here to here. And then the anchor, I am using the rich cocoa to get dark on the tips and around the bottom there. And I might give it a little more color than that, but I think that's all I really want to do for that. So let's get started on coloring this in. Here's what mine looks like. So all I'm going to do now is apply glue to the back of this, and I'm going to mount this right here. Now I'm going to make sure that this side of the anchor does not go over the edge. So you might want to scoot it over just enough to leave yourself a little bit of spacing on that. If you're new to scrapbooking or all that, here is a tip. When you have pockets and you need to put glue on something and then mount it down, get a scratch piece of cardstock and slide it in like a pocket, so that when you do place your piece, and if any glue seeps out, it will seep out onto the card rather than stick your two pages together. Adhere them. So once you have it down, you can just press, you can pull this out, put it back in, and it will absorb any glue that might seep through. That's just a tip. Okay, mine is glued down and it looks like it's dry. So we have a nice pocket here that will hold our picture maps or pictures in there, tags. Okay, remember this? I showed it. It's in your one of your chipboard pieces there. We're going to take rich cocoa and we're going to go around the edges pretty dark, and then we'll blot in some color here and there on the other, so that we're kind of looking like this. Okay, in your reserves you will find this. Let's cut off in between these two. We'll use this and put this back in our reserves. Now on this one, we're actually going to cut this, and we're going to cut this off. So, but we'll put this back in our reserves. So, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. So that goes back in reserves. We're going to cut out around this, and then we're going to ink around our edges with the rich cocoa. Once you've done that, then we're going to do the same thing. We'll apply glue to this, and we will glue it down to a scratch piece of black cardstock, and we will cut around it, leaving a black border. I've got mine done. Okay, I need my scratch piece of cardstock. It's going to go right there, and I'm going to apply some glue here. And I'm going to glue that down right on top of that chain, like so, making sure that I don't go over the edge. This one, I'm going to put some glue on my chain, and I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to grab a couple of my white flowers, and I'm going to go with my coral around it, like so, and then I'm going to apply my Wink of Stella And then what I'll do is I will cover it with my glossy accents. Once your flowers have dried with the glossy accents, we're going to place them. Mine are still wet, so I'll give mine time to dry here in just a moment. I'm going to allow mine to dry there. But once it's all dry, we can flip it over and we will apply our score tape around the outside like a picture frame, 1 down the middle and 2 on either side like we did our page 1. And then we're going to be mounting this in the book together. Okay, got my score tape on the back. This is page 2. Now one thing that's helpful, if you noticed, whether you're using black or white, it's hard to tell where the edge of your pages. So what I like to do is just grab a piece of paper so that I can see the edges around. Before we take off the score tape, I'm going to kind of show you, and you might want to do this on yours so you can kind of see where this is going to lay. My hinge is right here, and we're going to want to be about 1/8 of an inch over from that when we place it, and then we'll just place that where it's even. We'll have the same amount of black top to bottom. So our page will be mounted and it will look like this. Alright, I'm going to remove the score tape and I'm going to try to keep my head out of the video here. So about 1/8 in from the side. And this is where you're really going to want to press it down really good. All your edges and everything. So now that you have that page in, I'm going to flip this over. Maybe it'll be easier. Maybe not. Okay, so for this, before I remove the score tape, I'm going to show you what we want to do with this. When we place this, we're going to want to be further in and kind of center this on our cover. And we're looking to make sure the top of this is even with the top of this one. So for me, I might place mine right here. At least from standing at this angle, that looks like it would be a good placement. So I'll remove the backing. And this is the only pages that you have to do, like page 2 before page 1. Page 3 you will be mounting the same way you did page 2 on the other side. We'll do that together. And then the rest of the pages we really don't have to do together because you'll have all have shown you. Unless there's something special about laying a page in this album, So I'm going to try and keep my head out of the video. It's kind of hard to see. Make sure you steer clear of that hinge. I'm going to go right about here. And then we just press down really good on those edges. And page 1 and 2 are complete. And now we're going to move on to page 3. We're on page 3, and if you hear a humming in the background, it's because I'm at home and I am trying to get some laundry done. And the laundry room is not far from my craft room. Okay, so with page 3, we're going to do something a little different. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 6 inches by 8 inches. In your reserves, you will find this print. It says summer. On the back, it looks like this. So I'm going to turn this upside down. And I'm going to measure over 2 inches and cut. The side that has the word summer goes back into our reserves. Okay, we're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. The small piece we'll put back in our reserves. Let's get our glue. And what we're going to do is apply glue to the back of this, and we are going to mount this all the way to the left on our paper. So I've got this on, and it matters not whether you have the bluer grayish up here or down here. Let's set this off to the side. In our paper pack, we're going to find this sheet with the seashells down here. On the back, it looks like this. Let's first trim off this top part. Our trim piece, let's put in our reserves. Looking at our paper like this, where it is sideways, measure over 8 inches and cut. We'll put this side of the sheet back in our reserves. So we're going to do two things on this. We're going to cut for our page 4 as well as for our page 3. So the easiest thing to do is first, let's just measure over 6 inches and cut. The left side of the sheet we're going to put off to the side. We won't put it in our reserves. This is going to be for our page 4, and we're just going to set this off to the side so it doesn't get messed up or cut into by accident. We're going to be using this, so let's set that off to the side, and let's find some cardstock. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 5 1/4 inches by 10 inches. You'll want your 1/2 inch, your small border punch, and I am using the polka dots. So what we're going to do is punch along the long side. Let's grab our score tape, and we are going to place it on the right hand side of our sheet. Let's remove the backing. Okay, I'm going to turn mine like this. It's easier for me. And I am going to mount this. Now when I do this, I'm going to make sure I have an overhang of black cardstock on each side. Turn this around now, press, and out. Now I can just flip this over and wrap my flaps around the back, and I'll just quickly tack those down. And you have to use your hot glue. You can use your regular glue for that. Okay, so that is what we should have. With our page here, the one we set off to the side, not our page 4, but the one we had off here, measure over 4 3/4 of an inch and cut. We'll stick this in reserves. And if you notice, this should fit right on here on top of that space for the black cardstock. Let's apply our glue and glue that down. Cut 2 pieces of cardstock that are 4 1/8 inch wide by 6 3/4 of an inch long. Now check your reserves to see if you have any pieces that you can cut down to that size. We're going to set this off to the side for now. And this is where we're going to be needing our scoring board. On each one of these, we are going to do the same scoring. So I am 6 3/4 of an inch across the board here. At 6 inches, we're going to score lightly. If you score too hard, you will cut through your paper, and then that is no good. You'll have to recut your sheet and rescore. So 6 inches is our first score, and 6 1/8 is our second score. So 6 inches and 6 1/8. If you are having troubles with scoring where it is you're scoring lightly but it's still tearing, check the edges of your foam folder here. If they are super sharp, you'll want to maybe sand that down a little bit. Alrighty, so we can go ahead and fold on our score lines. Okay. Now I have this to where my flap is kind of up. What we're going to do, we are 4 1/8 of an inch across. We're going to need our pencil and our ruler. and I'm going to place it down here. I'm going to find center. So 2 1/16 of an inch is center. And that is going to help us. So what we're going to do is pull our side in as straight as we can, like that. And we're going to pull in our other side to match up. So that's what we have there. Let's just apply some glue. We won't cut this off. We'll make it a little thicker down here for us. Grab one of your magnets, and all we're going to do is place it on one right here. Whoops, I kind of smeared my glue around. I'm going to let that dry. Grab this piece back out of our reserves. Measure over 5 7/8 of an inch and cut. So this is what you should have. This one we're going to stick off to the side for this. This one we're going to use for this. Let's grab our ruler, and we should be about 4 inches across on this one. So let's find center at 2 inches, make a pencil mark, and we're going to do the same thing. Is pull in our side as best we can, trying to make it straight and even. Okay, before we do anything, now pull them back behind. Before we do anything, we want to make sure that this is going to fit nicely on our piece. So you see this flap? We have a bottom score and the top score. On the top score line, pinch it and pull that flap back behind. So all we're looking at is what we're needing to cover. So if we place this down, you'll notice we'll have a nice black border to the side. Now what we'll want to do is we'll want to just drag this down a little bit to where you can see the black border. And down here, I'm going to shave off about 1/16 of an inch. I just trimmed mine up. Now, when I place this, there should be a little bit of a black border showing on the bottom. And there is. So now all I need to do, I don't need this excess, so I am going to cut right where that fold is to remove the little side things. These cuttings we'll just stick in our reserves for now. You never know, we may be using those. Once you've done that, let's apply glue and mount that on our piece. Okay, there's my flap. Let's just set this off to the side for just a moment. The flap, we're just going to, our flap is down here and it's curled under. We're just going to flip it, so now the flap is at the top. You will have a top score line and a bottom score line. Let's just fold that back on the bottom score line so all we see is what needs to be covered. Place your piece down, and again we'll want a little bit of a black border on the sides, the top, and the bottom. So I'm going to need to make a pencil mark down here and trim off that excess. This extra little piece put off to the side, we're going to use it. Okay, so check before you apply your glue to the back of this, but it should look like this now with the black border all the way around. Let's apply our glue and glue that down. Okay, so I got mine down, and I'm just going to set this off to the side and grab a 1/2 inch punch. I am going to use a different punch. If you only have one punch, that is absolutely okay. This one is Abstract Flower. It is the 1/2 inch punch, and you are going to want a 1/2 inch punch for this. So I'm going to get that ready, and we're going to need some cardstock. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 1 3/8 inch by 4 inches. Okay, so once you have that, what we're going to do is we're going to place this in all the way over to the left, and remember how far over you are there. And I'm just going to the very edge because I need to know where that mark is again. So I am going to punch along this long side. Okay, so once I've punched along the long side, this is what you want to do. Do not flip yours over this way. This is the way that you started it, with you lined up, and that was your first punch, and you'll know because it'll line back up with the decorative design. So you're just going to flip it over this way so that it is going to be the same and match up. And then we're going to punch along this long side. Oops. So this is what you're going to have. As you can see, they match up. Once you've done that, take this piece, place it in the center, and glue it down. Let's grab this. Now, our flap is at the top. We're going to add a thin line of glue on each side, like so. Then we're going to place it on our page here, and we're going to allow that to dry. Mine is dry. So this is what we're going to do, is grab this out. Remember, our side pocket, generous size pocket here, is off to our left. We're going to flip this over, and you will see those two score lines. On the top score line, let's pinch it. And what we're going to do is just place that right over the top of our page. So that flap is going to go around to the back. Okay. Once you have it where it looks straight on either side, you're going to pinch it, hold it. If it slips, you'll feel it slip. If it does, you'll have to start over with realigning. Otherwise, it's going to get on crooked. So flip it over and keep your fingers on it. Once you have it flipped over, this is where you can just gently pull that flap back, apply your glue, and press. Once you've done that, now you can push up on that second score line that was down, and then run your finger across, and if it's flat, it's where it should be. So we'll just flip that up, and we're going to do the same thing on this. We have a bottom score and a top score. On the top, we're going to pinch it. Okay, we're going to slide this in, but before we do any holding of it, before we flip our page over, what we're going to want to do is bring this back over the top, and this is how you're going to line up your sides. If you press this down, your sides should be even with the top one. If that is good, you can pinch it now, flip it over, oops, and we will just wrap that flap around the back. Now we'll press down and run our fingers down here. And when you go like that, you should have a nice fit.